Doris, we're so excited to have you here on this day, 56th anniversary of LBJ's address to a joint session of Congress talking about the Voting Rights Act. Tell us about that moment, why that was so extraordinarily important in the history of the United States of America. And sadly, I say sadly, why it is so relevant today because of what's going on in Georgia and other states across America.
Oh, Joe, it's so important to remember because it's the second half of what brought about the Voting Rights Bill. You have what we were commemorating a week ago, what happened at the Pettus Bridge, which inflamed the conscience of the country, brought that issue of voting rights to the floor of Congress. And then you have one senator, now President Lyndon Johnson from the South, giving the most extraordinary address called the We Shall Overcome Address to mobilize the Congress to pass the Voting Rights Bill, which it does 4 months later. And it means so much to me personally, because little did I know when I was listening to that speech, I had actually been at the March on Washington in 1963. I had listened like everybody and watched what happened at the Pettus Bridge. And when we listened to that speech when I was in graduate school, we were crying. We knew something big was really happening, a linkage between the outside movement and the inside. It starts off every now and then. History and fate meet at a certain time in a certain place. So it was in Selma, Alabama. So it was at Appomattox. So it was, no, finally, first it starts, so it was in Lexington and Concord. So it was at Appomattox. So it was at Selma, Alabama. Not a Negro problem, not a white problem, not an American problem. An American problem is one that is no moral issue involved. It is deadly wrong to deny your fellow Americans the right to vote. If I had ever thought that night that 3 years later I'd end up working for the man, Lyndon Johnson, who delivered that speech, or marrying the man, Richard Goodwin, who worked on that speech, I would never have believed it possible. And you're so right. Now those rights are back in jeopardy. We have to fight again. It is deadly wrong, he said, deadly wrong to do this, and we have to remember it. This is the next big civil rights struggle.
Let's listen to just a little bit of that speech.
Our duty must be clear to all of us. The Constitution says that no person shall be kept from voting because of his race or his color. We have all sworn an oath before God.
And now, 56 years later, here's voting rights advocate Stacey Abrams calling out Republican state legislatures for attempting to restrict voter access in what she calls an obvious effort to stop people of color from casting ballots.
I do absolutely agree that it's racist. It is a redux of Jim Crow in a suit and tie. We know that the only thing that precipitated these changes, it's not that there was a question of security. In fact, the Secretary of State and the governor went to great pains to assure America that Georgia's elections were secure. And so the only connection that we can find is that more people of color voted, and it changed the outcome of elections in a direction that Republicans do not like. And so instead of celebrating better access and more participation, their response is to try to eliminate access to voting for primarily communities of color.
You know, it used to be, Eddie, that people would at least try to disguise their foul efforts behind, polite language. But we showed a clip of Ron Johnson earlier talking about how he wasn't scared of white rioters, wasn't scared of white terrorists, but would be afraid if there were black marchers coming on the Capitol on January the 6th. That's just obvious, plain in-your-face bigotry. Same thing happening in the state of Georgia, the same thing happening in other states where Republicans run the legislature. They are desperately trying to do whatever they can to stop black and Hispanic voters from having access to the voting booths and having their voices heard.
Absolutely, Joe. Over 250 bills filed in 43 states to curtail voting in this country. And what that reveals in so many ways is that there are those among us who aren't committed to democracy in any robust sense, right? That democracy can only be thought of as the possession of white citizens. And those of us who are here, who happen not to be white, we should shut up and be grateful. And we see that kind of politics over and over again. And so, you know, to celebrate the anniversary of that extraordinary speech by LBJ in this moment is to also call attention to the long history of our country with regards to the franchise. We have struggled when it comes to our democracy. when it comes to our democracy in relation to black folk and brown folk and other folk. And I think this is just the latest instance in the long history of that struggle, Joe, of us to become a truly multiracial democracy. Just think, 250 bills filed in 43 states by Republicans to curtail the voting of American citizens, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank all of you out there.
Thank you as always.
Thanks to at home.
Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for letting us into your homes during these extraordinary times.